I thought woodpeckers did that because they were looking for bugs.
Yeah. Well, and also it's also like a a call to other birds too, to other woodpeckers. I
Oh,
think mating call and also to call for food and that kind of stuff.
well, it's not exactly mating season now, but
I don't know. I don't know what woodpeckers mating season.
well, I think that normally I think spring is normally mating season. I mean,
For
yeah.
everything.
Well, for birds, right? I don't know. If they don't put, I would, yeah. Yeah, what do I know?
I don't follow the sex lives of woodpeckers.
Ha ha ha, very funny. Uh, actually, speaking about animals and whatnot, my brother and sister-in-law live in the DC area, and they've had the pandas from China, and they've had to return I don't know, I guess their lease or whatever is up, and they had to return the pandas. China took their pandas back, and everybody in DC is really upset about it. I guess they're walking around with hats with panda ears and they're like a red teardrop on their cheek and everything. They're very, but apparently when Biden was in China this last week, to or they weren't in China, they were in San Francisco. But when they had the negotiations with President Xi or whatever of China, one of the things they talked about was bringing the pandas back and putting them at the San Diego Zoo.
Hmm.
So San Diego Zoo is, I guess pandas at one time were an endangered species, but because of the breeding programs that the zoos have been doing, they're off the endangered species list. I don't know if that's why China took their pandas back. I think they just took them back to be mean, but I don't know. But
It's kind of surprising that that's all it took, because it seems like when a baby panda is born in one of the zoos, that it's kind of big news and stuff. So I don't know. You wouldn't think that there'd be
well, I
that
don't know
many.
that I don't know that the pandas in DC were. I mean, I don't
No, I
know.
don't just mean
You
DC. I just mean
uh,
in general. I mean, we don't, you just, no matter where they are in
right.
the world, when there's pandas born in captivity, you hear about it. It's kind of new. So I'm just wondering, I'm just surprised that that seems to be enough to reverse the endangered species status, that there's, a handful of, you know, uh,
Well,
in captivity birth.
I have no details on this story. You'll have to research that. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I could be wrong about that. But I know that a lot of the zoo, I mean, not just pandas, but other animals, they've, and this has been going on, probably 20, 30 years or more, that they've been doing this, to breed animals in the zoo and bring them back to um, get them off the endangered species list. So,
Mhm.
and it's been pretty successful, I know.
The World Wildlife Fund is going to have to change their logo. Remember, it's always been that
The panda.
panda. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
Now maybe it's the only thing that's not on the endangered species list.
no, I don't think that's true. But who knows? I don't know. I don't know. But I'm hardly an
I've
expert.
seen the uh, commercials for the elephants, and it's so depressing.
Oh my God, that thing,
So
it's
depressing.
too upsetting. I can't watch those commercials. They're
Yeah.
just too upsetting. And and of course, who's the woman that lived with the gorillas, and how the gorillas were being slaughtered. And
Diane
no,
and um,
yeah.
I can't think of her.
I know, right? When we're not trying to think of it, then it'll come to us. But we're so bad. But yeah, no, you know who I mean. I thought it was Jane something.
Well, Jane Goodall. Yeah.
Yeah, Jane Goodall. There you go.
Diane's another one that did something similar. I can't think of her last name, but anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jane Goodall. Yeah, I mean it's too upsetting, right? There was a movie. Wasn't there a movie about Jane Goodall?
Gorillas in the midst.
Yes, Gorillas.
Mist. Mist.
Missed how that's an old one though. That's from what, the 80s or 90s, right?
Yeah, I was traveling in Europe when that came out, and it was really big in France, you can imagine. And there were, God, I can't think of the word now, the French word for mist, but it was the
Oh,
everywhere. It was like the posters everywhere, and then all the subways and everything. Gorillas dans la. I can't think of the word for mist.
French for mist.
Yeah, but every time I think of that movie, I actually hear it in French, but it's
Oh,
because
interesting. Huh.
I saw that poster everywhere we went. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. So, we got Thanksgiving coming up. The holiday season is here.
Yes. And
Wow, it really crept up on us this year, didn't it?
yeah, like I said in that, I shared that video I sent out with you. I was like, I know every year we say that the holidays, seem to come earlier and earlier, and this year it seems more that way than ever.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I think because we've had such mild weather too. All
well,
my
and
flowers are still out.
I saw in the paper this morning that there's an El Nino building out in the Pacific, and they're saying Chicago's going to have a mild winter. I guess it's been 4 years since there's been an El Nino, but um, they're saying that Chicago's going to have a mild winter because of it. And
Hmm.
the last 3 or 4 winters have been pretty mild. In fact, I remember last year they were concerned about the lack of ice on the lake because it was so mild that we hardly got any ice. So and I'm switching out my glasses. I don't know why, but for some reason I can't see with those glasses today. I'm switching out my glasses. I'm not sure that's any better. It's a little better.
Yeah, I mean, we're in Thanksgiving week and all my flowers are still out. My tropical flowers are still all blooming, and petunias and the
Oh,
dipladenias
well,
and
I had
my
amaryllis.
ferns, all my like ferns and begonias are all still,
We haven't had a hard frost yet.
yeah.
Oh,
They actually got snowed on once and it all stuck to it for a while, but then so I thought that would have done it, but it didn't. So
but
they're all actually look better this week.
it wasn't that cold when it snowed, right?
Well, it was like right at freezing, but I thought with the snow kind of caked on them for the
Yeah,
afternoon evening, it would have
yeah,
killed them, but it didn't.
yeah.
Actually, they came back the next week a little stronger.
Huh.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, I think we're supposed to be below freezing this week, but
I cannot see. I don't know. I cannot see.
but anyway, yeah. So
Is it supposed to be
that's what
below
I'm
freezing
doing.
this week?
Yeah, well, last week they were predicting it was supposed to be like lows in the 20s and stuff at some point this week, but
Well,
maybe it's changed. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I don't keep up with that, but no, I mean, well, I didn't have a lot of flowers out on the balcony. I put my amaryllis out there because you're supposed to do that so that they can gather strength to bloom again. Once they're done blooming, you put them out and let the leaves and whatnot grow, and that's how they build energy to bloom again.
Hmm.
You're supposed to actually bring them in August so that they bloom in time for Christmas. I don't care about if they bloom for Christmas or not. I could care less. Who cares?
Sounds like more of that woodpecker information.
Maybe.
But
Well, it's like poinsettias. They have to be put in the dark, and then you bring them out, and then they'll bloom.
yeah.
Like that. But poinsettias will do that naturally because of the changing in the length of days. I mean, it naturally gets darker out this time of year. They don't have as much daylight, and that's what signals them to. Because I had a poinsettia plant that I just after the Christmas bloom and all the blooms die off and whatnot, I just kept it and do its thing, and it would bloom every year. And my
Hmm.
Christmas cactus, actually, my Christmas cactus is blooming now. It looks really beautiful.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah,
usually get, yeah, I usually get a second bloom from the Christmas cactus in the spring, which is weird. Not as robust as it is right now, but it'll bloom usually a second time.
Hmm.
What? Why are you grinning? What? You're making fun of
Um,
me, I can tell.
I've been out when I'm out walking around River North, there's all the managed buildings and offices, all the different gardened pots and areas and stuff, all of the along the streets and everything. And
Hmm.
about, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks ago, they take all of the flowers out,
Right.
you
And switch them
replace
out.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first there was like 2 or 3 different levels. First, they took some of them out and left others, and then they came back and took, the rest of them out and replaced with the mums and stuff.
And the kale.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then they took all of those out, and now they've filled them in with, like, the greens, just
Right.
like
The evergreens, right.
yeah, cut greens and decoration stuff. And the entire time, my tropical flowers have just been sitting in their pots blooming. So it's like, wow, that seems like a lot of
Effort,
effort,
right?
money. Some of them, like along the that along the river walk, I mean, there is like giant pots as far as the eye can see, like
Yeah.
hundreds of them that they come in and do all that stuff with, and all the I mean, just a ton of it. And it's
Right.
like, I can imagine how much that cost, and like the flowers never died. So it's kind of, they could have just waited till they died and just put the winter covering, the greens and red
Well, yeah,
sticks
but they
or whatever
haven't died.
over.
They'd still have the petunias out there if they followed your method, and then you
And
never.
that's my point. They don't. Why do you need? Don't do it till you need it. But
No,
they've
I
gone through
I
3 different
rejoice
phases
with the.
already.
No, you have to have the change of seasons, man. I mean, come
Well,
on.
even if you did do it now, you didn't have to do, like, the half of them and then the mums, and then they take the mums out and do this. It's like, it's
They,
just
they
one
got to
thing
keep
after
these
another.
people employed. After all, the city has a budget.
Do we?
Well, and in that vein, I was going to say, how they have all the tulip bulbs, and they take those out, and tulip bulbs are not. I don't know if you've ever bought and planted tulip bulbs, but they are not.
Planted them, but I've never bought them.
Oh, they are not cheap if you buy them
Yeah.
from the. I mean, they are not cheap, and they dig out. The city will dig out the bulbs and replace them, and actually, you can go over to Garfield Park. That if you get onto the Garfield Park website, you have to sign up for their alerts or whatever, but they'll let you know when you could. This might actually be the time, and when maybe we missed it because they usually dig them up in the fall and plant the new ones in the fall. It was probably in October or maybe September that they did that, but they announce when the old bulbs, they give them away, and you go and you stand in line, and they're usually gone in the space of an hour. I think they parcel out how many they'll actually give you,
Yeah.
give an individual. But
I don't remember how long ago that was, but do you remember when they redid Michigan Avenue and put all the planters in,
uh-huh.
back during Daley's administration? That first round of all of those tulips was donated by the country of Holland.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's
Gave
where
us
they
all
all
of
come
those,
from.
and that's how it all started. And then there was like a I don't know what to call it, duplication process or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, so that's how we got that whole
Yeah,
tulip
that
thing.
was Maggie Daly's thing, the boulevards, the in the middle of the street. They had traveled somewhere, I guess in Europe maybe, where they're common. And
That's the story anyway.
well, that's the story.
Maggie went to Paris and came back and said, but I think there was a lot more to it than that. But
Well, yes, but I mean, I do think she was probably
that's the legend.
I do think she might have been the impetus behind it, don't you think?
Yeah, well,
I know.
maybe. I
Who
don't
knows?
know.
I don't, yeah, who knows? But speaking of Michigan Avenue, we were downtown Saturday night. We had tickets to the symphony, and we usually go down early and get dinner and then go to the concert. You know, they've moved the concert times up to 7:30, which is so weird, but I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, the word is everything's getting moved up earlier since COVID.
yeah, I think we talked about this before, actually. That seems like a familiar conversation. But anyway, so we knew that the Festival of Lights was Saturday. They lit the lights on Michigan Avenue. So we allowed a little extra time, but we did not allow enough time. We only allowed an hour. It took us 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 hours. But fortunately, we went to Forte, which is the restaurant at Symphony Center. We hadn't been there before. We typically go to you. Well, it's new. It's a newer. They just opened it last year. It's actually a joint venture with the Symphony. Did we talk about this before? No, but
Yes.
did we?
Well, about going there in the restaurant there and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we hadn't actually been to the restaurant before, but they have they've really got it set up. I was really impressed because we were an hour late for our reservation. We had a 5:30 reservation. We didn't get there till 6:30. The concert was at 7:30, but they have a pre-fee menu. So basically everybody pays the same. I mean, they've really streamlined the process, and you pick a starter and you pick an entree. And if you want to order cocktails, that's separate, of course. But we got in and out of there. We were sitting in our seats. We had kind of resigned. Okay, you know what? We'll go ahead. We'll eat dinner, and if we miss the first half or if we miss part of the concert, you know, no big deal. We were in our seats by 7:30. I mean, it was. I was really impressed, and the food was delicious. They have a
What you talked about before was the restaurant there that had closed. So this is the one that
Oh,
replaced
there
it.
used to
Is
be
it Rhapsody or something?
well, Rhapsody was there for a long time, and then they closed. That was before COVID. That was long before COVID that
Yeah.
Rhapsody closed, and then it was an Italian. It was an Italian restaurant, and that was only there a couple of years. I think that closed because of COVID. It didn't
Yeah.
make it. And then Forte opened, and they really need something there for people going to the symphony. I feel. I mean, I think it's they don't stay open after the concert, but it was so funny because everybody in that restaurant, everybody, and they were relatively full, but I mean, they weren't packed by any means, which is why they were able to seat us at 6:30 instead of our 5:30 reservation. But 7:20, the place was empty. The only people left in the restaurant were the servers and the staff, and so everybody there was obviously going to the symphony. So that's clearly their audience, which is really interesting. You'd think they'd get some outside. I mean, I know Rhapsody had people outside of symphony goers as clientele there, but no, Forte it has a Mediterranean menu basically. And, it was really good. The food was delicious.
Good.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And if you need to get in and get out, they got a system, boy. But they're not open after the concert. So because I get parking, and I get a parking through Spot Hero. And I asked for till 10 o'clock to give us enough time to get down and get to the car. And they always extend it to like 11:30. So we would have enough time after the concert because the concert's out. Well, we were out like 9:15. I mean, we had plenty of time, even with the 10 o'clock time, to go get coffee and dessert or something afterwards. And after concert, something.
How much coffee have you had today?
I only had 2 cups. Why? But yeah, anyway, so but Forte is closed, and I mean, we would have totally gone there after a concert to get something, coffee and dessert afterwards. But they're closed, so you can't do that. We used to go down to Rhapsody all the time. In fact, we would go to Rhapsody. We would put in a reservation to come down after the concert the concierge was so great. He got to recognize us and knew our names. And when Rhapsody closed, he ended up over at Capitol Grill. We happened to go there one time at Capitol Grill, and he was a concierge there and recognized us and remembered our names. I mean, I was like, that was impressive, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, you're pretty memorable.
I don't know about that. I think Bob is memorable. I think they remember Bob, actually. He's very memorable, but I'm not. I think
Speaking of the symphony reminded me that we went on Thursday night to up at the Vic. We went for the Moth. They
Oh.
did the Moth live at the Vic, and for the NPR recording, and it was fantastic. It was really, really good.
That was Saturday night you did that?
Oh, Thursday night.
Thursday
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
Now, is
and-
that the one at Belmont and Sheffield? Is that the no?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, they had 5 different speakers, telling stories from their life, true stories from their life, and a complete like variety, and every one of them was really good, and the host is great too, and Zara that plays the violin and everything. Do you ever listen to it on NPR, the Moth Radio Hour? We haven't heard it as much lately. We used to hear it all the time on the
What's
weekends.
it called? The Moth and
The Moth, like moth.
like a moth, like a butterfly type.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's been on NPR for years.
Okay.
But
and they recorded here live, huh?
well, they recorded in different places. Yeah, so it's out of New York, I think, but they recorded, they evidently, I didn't realize this, but he said that they do, they're doing workshops around the country all the time. And even just in Chicago, even though like the Moth is out of like what is WPWR, whatever in New York, they even in Chicago, they have a monthly, like it's kind of like an open mic night that travels around in different places in Chicago, where people go and
Tell their stories.
Yeah. And it's and then they kind of workshop them from there. They pick people and kind of work them and get them into programs. It's quite a production. I didn't realize how deep it went, and how maybe kind of tentacles that they have around the country into different kind of organizations and stuff. But yeah, it was pretty impressive. But it was great. And at the end of the show, the host was speaking, and you and I had been talking about this, especially since our Compass retreat in San Diego last weekend, our CEO's remarks about trying to get in person again and all of that. The last thing he said was, wasn't it great to be out among people, and listening to live speakers and telling their stories. And I was like, God, it really was. And I was like, no, I didn't really the mood to go out, but it's time, especially now it's fall and winter. It's like it's dark early and it's cooler, and you just kind of feel like staying in. But we had tickets with friends to go, and then once you're there, it's like, wow, I'm so glad.
So glad, right? Yeah, I know. Well, that was something that Robert Refkin talked about in his opening remarks at the retreat about it. He told a story about his board meetings, and how, of course, during COVID, the last 3 years, all their board meetings have been by Zoom. And he said normally he has a very cordial.
Many of them were new to the board too, during almost all of them, I think, were new to the board during COVID.
And in the past, he's typically enjoyed very cordial relationships with the board members, but he noticed that during Zoom that things just didn't seem to have that during COVID, and with the Zoom meetings that they didn't have that cohesiveness and that camaraderie that he was used to enjoying. So he decided to start having the meetings in person. And he said, our board meetings would last a half an hour, and we'd get on, we'd get off, we'd take care of business, no chit chat or any of that stuff. He said when they did the meeting live, they brought him in and they gave him breakfast, and and then they went into the boardroom, and while they were having breakfast, they're talking about their kids and schools and and families. And he's like, some of the board members, he says, I didn't even know that they had families because they hadn't connected at that level. And he said it just made all the difference in the world. And I mean, yes, it's great to have Zoom meetings and Zoom. I mean, the technology is phenomenal, but we as human beings
Doing it now.
doing it now, right? But as human beings, we need to have that face-to-face connection, and it makes you just can't get that through Zoom. But we try, we do the best we can, right? So
on that note, we'll be back here on Zoom.
Yeah, on that note, we got our Thanksgiving recipe books done, and I'm getting mine out. You're getting yours out. We'll have them out before the end of the day. And so everybody, if you want a copy of it, it's an online flip book. We can send you the link. So put a note in the comment section on Facebook, and we'll be happy to send you that link. Or don't send us any more recipes. We're done. We're putting this project to bed.
Well, we can always add them.
We can always add them, but it's a little bit.
Book, we can keep adding them, so it's we can keep adding.
Oh, that's true. We can do that because the link doesn't change, right? Yeah. So that's a good point. Yeah, you can always add them. So if you have a favorite recipe you'd like to send us, but in the meantime, safe travels, happy holidays, and we will be back here next Monday.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.